Om Namo Narayanaaya. Om Namo Narayanaaya. Recently I was reading in Rahasya Trayasaram about different Vedanta Deshika talks about different people chanting Astakshara in different ways, and he has quoted Periyalvar Tirumoli, a couple of verses there where Periyalvar says Namo Narayana, and he says that for Panchamas and Shudras, and that Namo Narayana is enough, which is Sadakshara, and I'm wondering how this can be a pramanam, because Periyalvar is a Brahmin. He's a Brahmin. So obviously Periyalvar is able to chant the full Astakshara, including Pranava. So, and then I was looking for some other mentions of the Astakshara mantra in Nalaya Divya Prabandham, and there was one, I think Tirumalasayalvar, I'm not sure, it's Chandavirutam somewhere. The actual, in the Prabandham itself, it says Tiruvastakshara. So it mentions 8 syllables. So 8 syllables seem to be accepted. Is Tirumalasayalvar, is he, what Varna was he supposed to be? Do you know? These people are all,
he is supposed to be of divine birth.
Ionages, yeah. Yeah. So
you please complete the name.
No. I was just saying, because also recently I read a brand new article by one Tengalai person from coil.org, one Sarati, and he's suggesting that foreigners are Varna free, and they have no Varna.
Sorry?
Foreigners. He was talking about foreigners and saying that foreigners are Varna free, that they don't have any Varna. So is there some sort of pramana for that? It doesn't. I never heard this statement before, Varna free.
See, there are three very important issues. One is how to resolve this issue of whether these Sapranava Astakshara Viti or Pranava Rahita. So this is one very important issue, whether the strees, that is the women, and also those people who are not the Trivarnikas, because they don't have the Adhikara to chant the Pranava. Why, etc., that is the different issue. We'll not worry about that now. So that is why the Vadakanai Sampradaya, it is started as Am Namo Narayana. So recently I had a very detailed discussion with a great scholar in Melkote. I think you might have also seen him and heard about him. His name is Harayar Sri Ramashan. One of the greatest contemporary scholars, although he may not be known to many people outside India, etc., because of his knowledge, the lack of knowledge of English, and he's not speaking in English. So he resolved this issue in a very nice manner. So when we say that there are 2 issues which you need to know, that is Vaidika and Tantrika. Vaidika means that which has been ordained in the Vedas. And Tantrika means that which has been ordained in Tantras. So Tantra means Pancharatra Tantra, etc. Tantra, the original meaning of Tantra is quite different. But once again, that also has to be explained in great detail. I will not go into that, why it's called as Tantra, etc. Because Shankaracharya says, Shruti Patha Galitanam Tantra Marge Nivesha. Those who are unable to follow the Vedic path, or those who have fallen from the Vedic path, they have to follow the Tantric path. So today, the Advaitins say that we are Vaidikas and we are Tantrikas. It is not true at all, because they follow different tantras more than us. The Smartha community people follow because they are mostly engaged in performing the different vratas and panchayat and puja, etc. It is not at all mentioned in many of the Vedic texts. Of course, it is not against the Vedic text, but it is not just like Pancharatra, it is also according to the Vedic text, but that is also Tantra. So some people nowadays nobody knows about all these things. Earlier scholars who belong to my guru's generation, they used to debate all these things. Nowadays, nobody knows even why or how these things are. So in fact, nobody is following exactly Vedic path, nobody is following now. Because those Vedic traditions or Vedic rituals are long gone now. They disappeared several thousands of years ago. Because the Sandhya Vandanam, this Yajnopavita, etc. itself is not mentioned in the Vedic Samhitas. It is a later addition only. And also the Sutra Yajnopavita is not mentioned in the Vedas. Because the original Vedic text that mentions about the Yajnopavita is that it mentions Ajinam Vaso Va Dakshinata Upaviya Dakshinam Bahodharate Vadatte. So the original mention about the Yajnopavita is Etadeo Pavitam Prachina Vitakam Samvitam Manusham. So originally in the Vedic, that is the sub-Vedic, you can keep it as sub-Vedic text that ordained the usage of Yajnopavita, or the sacred thread as we call it in English. It is mentioned as you have to wear either a jina, that is the deer skin, or a cloth in this manner. Just as we are wearing this. So it seems that they used to tie a cloth like this earlier, or tie a deer skin like this in this. Why it has to be done like this, once again, that's a very big issue which I'm not going to know. Why it has to be done like this for Deva Karya? For Manushya Karya, it should be like this, like a garland. For Pitra Karya, it should be opposite. Why it has to be done like this? Why not the opposite way? So that is another big issue. We will not go into that. So that is one thing. Why did I start this? That is purely Vaidika, it is not. So it was started later. The Yajnopavita itself was started later. Gayatri Mantra was started by Vishwamitra, who came a little later than the original Vedic period. What we call, once again, these are all very, very complicated issues because, as I mentioned in the last class of the earlier, one of the earlier classes, from which century to which century it prevailed. When did this happen? When did that happen? We don't have any records to say historically when it happened, when it changed, etc. We know that it has changed. Because when you say, my guru used to say, many people, I don't know how many people know about these things, even so the so-called great scholars, they also may not be. So we later adopted the Grihya Sutra. So Grihya Sutra is adoption of the Vedic rituals. So when the Vedic rituals could not be performed in their original sense, etc., then several things were derived from the Vedas and adopted by us, which is called Grihya Sutra. So the Shodasha Samskaras, once again, they have also lost their meaning today because of total change of lifestyle, etc. We are still, they are being performed still namesake only. Namesake they are performed. That is mentioned in the Grihya Sutras. So Grihya means that which has been taken. Taken from where? Based on the Vedic rituals, they have been adopted based on the Vedic theories. So Shauta is different from Grihya. Then you have the tantric things which came from Pancharatra Agama, Vaikhansa Agama, Shaiva Agama, Shakta Agama, so many Agamas are there. That is when you have the matas, Shaiva, Vaishnava, Sankhya, Saura, Sankhya, and Ganapatya, something like that. So these six were the Indian deities of the Indian pantheon, if you want to put it in a very English way of putting it. So these are the deities of this thing. So these are the 6 matas that came, and each. So you have Saura Tantra, you have Vaishnava Tantra, you have Shaiva Tantra, Shakta Tantra or the Devi Tantra, and Ganapatya, Ganapati Tantra, where Ganapati is worshipped as the Supreme Lord. Even Panchayatana Puja is more or less based on this only, where you have 5 deities being performed, with one deity being kept in the middle. He will be deity worshipped as the Supreme. That is the Angi Devata, and the other 4 will be subsidiary to that deity. So it is called Panchayatana Puja, which is extensively performed in the Smartha Sampradaya. So it is Arityam, Ambikam, Vishnum, Gananatham, Maheshwar. So that is Surya, then Shakti or Parvati, or Devi, whatever you call it, then Vishnu, or Ganapati, or Shiva. Then one more is added, is we all worship sun. So sun worship. So these are the 6. Or some people say it's not Shakta, it is Shakya. Once again, that is another very big issue about which we don't know much. So it is said that Shankaracharya revived these 6. So he is called as Shanmata Sthapanacharya, who revived these 6 traditions. So that is one big issue. So he says Shrutipada Galitanam Tantra Marge Nivesha. That means those who have fallen from the, or who are unable to follow the Vedic path, they have to follow the Tantric path, and these are the Tantras. So we also call Pancharatra Tantra only, or even Vaikhanasa Tantra only it is called. So my Guru explained why it is called Tantra. It means Tantra means to do some trick. So you have to, what do you do that? It's like one way of doing it is you have to enter the house. So suppose you cannot enter the house from the front door, and if the front door, you keep the front door locked. Suppose you trick the person who has locked the front door, you enter from the back door. It is originally not permitted, or it's not correct. But you trick the owner to believe that ultimately you say, see, end justifies the means. Whether I come from the back door or front door, why do you worry? I have reached the house. So Tantra means in Sanskrit, it also called as Upaya. Upaya means not in the original sense of Upaya. Upaya means some shortcut. So when we cannot go, suppose now we have to, originally in India or any place for that matter, you did not have an aeroplane. If you do not have an aeroplane, how do? You have to travel on this land only. So traveling on the land is like the Vedic path to attain moksha. Is like traveling on the land. You cannot use any shortcut, or even shortcut also is like traveling on the land only. You can reduce the distance slightly, but you cannot you cannot overcome it, or you cannot escape. So later they found out aeroplanes. So from Bangalore to Delhi, earlier it used to take 2 days or 3 days in a train, or if you travel by a car or something like that, 3 days it used to take minimum. So now you can travel that distance in 3 hours. Because of the what we call as Tantrajnana, technology. It is again another different type of usage of the word Tantra. So here also in Pancharatra, you perform bhakti, etc. with an iconic form. Then you reach a stage where you go beyond the iconic form and you reach Parampara itself, which some consider as beyond the iconic form, some consider whatever it is. I am not very about it. So the Tantric Anushtanas are common to all Varnas and all ashramas. So the Samashena or the Panchasamskara can be given to anybody, irrespective of caste, creed, nationality, age, etc. So some person has not had the Samashena, even at the age of 80, he can have it. There is nothing wrong. So here, the scholar who resolved this issue of Pranava should be chanted or not is So in the Tannacharya Sampradaya, he says it is the Tantrika Pranava that is given as Upadesha to the Shishyas. So in the Tantra Shastra, it is not incorrect to use the Pranava. So he resolved this issue by saying, if you consider it as a Vaidika mantra, then it is correct that you should not teach the Pranava to the non-Traivarnikas as well as the ladies who may belong to the Brahmin, Vaishya, Kshatriya, etc. communities. But the Tannacharya Sampradaya says it is Tantrika Pranava. That is the Pranava that is used in the Tantras like Pancharatra Tantra or Vaikhansa. So there is nothing wrong in, there is no contradiction between the Tengalai and Vadagalai Sampradayas in this, when you take this as the criteria. So the Vadagalai Sampradaya deems Pranava, which is part of Astakshara, as Vaidika. So they gave it only to the Traivarnikas. Others, they don't do it because they consider the mantra as Vaidika. But the Astakshara Mahamantra has been mentioned in the Tantras also. Now, for example, if you take the case of Purusha Sukta, it comes in Rigveda in the form of riks or shloka, the what is that? Poetry form. Sahasra Shirisha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat Sabhumim Vishwato Vritvat Yatishtad Dashangulam. So this is the Vedic poetry which is known as a rik. So it appears in Rigveda Samhita, the Purusha Sukta. Whereas the same literature, which is 99% identical, because I'm telling 99% because the rules of Rigveda and Yajurveda are different when it comes to certain aspects. Now, for example, Purusha Vedagam Sarvam, we use when the Anuswara is succeeded by Sa, Sha, Saha. We use the word Gam. Whereas they use it as Dirghasvarika. Purusha Vedam, it becomes like that in Rigveda. That is the rule of Rigveda. Rigveda grammar is different from Yajurveda grammar. These are all, once again, very, very important nuances which many people, many scholars also are not aware of. So, what happens is the same literature, identical literature is found in the Aranyaka of the Yajurveda. So, Purusha Sukta, whether it belongs to Rigveda or whether it belongs to Yajurveda, it belongs to both. Because in Rigveda, it is found in the Samhita in the form of riks or the poetry form. It is found in an identical form in Yajurveda Aranyaka, but as prose. Sahasra Shirisha Purushaha. There ends the sentence. Sahasraksha Sahasrapat. There ends the next second sentence. Sabhumim Vishwato Vritva. You stop there. Satyatishthad Dashangulam. Purusha Evedagam Sarvam. Yadbhutam Yachabhavyam. So each sentence is different from one the other. So this is in prose form, whereas that is in poetry form. Now, which of this is correct? There is no contradiction between it. If you belong to the Rikshaka or if you are a Rigvedian, you chant it according to your Veda, your rules. If you are a person of Yajurveda, you belong to Yajushaka, you chant it according to your Veda. So a person who belongs to Yajushaka or the Yajurveda branch, he should not say the Rigveda tradition in chanting Purusha Sukta is incorrect. Or the Rigvedian cannot say Yajurveda Purusha Sukta is incorrect. Because it is found in both places. So Rigveda person will say chant according to his tradition. Yajurveda person will chant according to this tradition. Fortunately, there has been no quarrel between the Veda Shakhas. The Yajurvedins are against Rigvedins and Rigvedins are against Samvedins, etc.
So getting back to Astakshara, though, the primary pramana for Astakshara is Narayana Upanishad. Om Namo Narayana iti mantropasakaha vaikunta bhuvana lokam gamishyati.
Yeah.
Which this is an Upanishad. This is Vedic, no?
Once again, that is Narayana Atharva Shirsha Upanishad. So Atharva Shirsha Upanishad means it has a little bit, it's a little bit controversial. Once again, to be very honest, I am giving you the Atharva Shirsha Upanishad. You have Ganapat Atharva Shirsha, you have several other Atharva Shirshas. So they are not by people who really know, they are not considered as authentic as the Dashopanishads or Taittiriya Upanishad thing, the Upanishads like Taittiriya Upanishad, etc. But once again, another problem is, even in Taittiriya Upanishad, you have this Andhra Patha and Dravida Patha. I don't know whether you are aware of that.
Yes, I'm aware. So
in that Andhra Patha, even in the Narayana Anuvaka, for example, the Smartas chant it in different ways. They say Sabbrahma Sashivasendra. So they add Sabbrahma Sashivasaharisendra Sokshara Namaswarat. So they say Param Brahman is beyond Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Whereas we don't accept it. We say the one among Vishnu is one among the triad is himself the Supreme Brahman. This is the Vaishnava point of view.
Okay,
but they try to distort.
Okay, but getting back to the Atharva Shira Narayana Upanishad, it is one of the Upanishads that has Swaram. So we can't deny that.
Of course, you have many more 108 Upanishads also has Swaram.
Yeah, yeah.
But that doesn't increase its authenticity among the people who are neutral. That doesn't mean I am not. It's not that I am not accepting the authenticity of the Atharva Shirsha Upanishad, but see, the Atharva Shirsha Upanishad means, to put it in very, very simple terms, they are a little later additions. That doesn't mean addition is not authentic. Now, for example, even Shri Suktam belongs to Rigveda Kila. Kila means what?
Appendix.
That was added later.
Yeah,
but that doesn't reduce its authenticity or value.
Right.
Atharva Shira also is a little bit like that. So the other people may not accept its validity in as much as they accept Taittiriya Upanishad or something like that.
Right. My point is not whether it's earlier or later. My point is that that according to, I mean, if it has Swaram, it is considered Vaidikucharanam, no? Vaidikucharanam. It's if it with Swaram.
No. Even now, for example, Kena Upanishad does not have Swaram as of now. But that is considered as a very important Upanishad. Or Mundaka Upanishad or Mandukya Upanishad, that does not have Swaram as of now.
No,
but
that's the opposite point. That's not my point. My point is Narayana Atharva Shira has Swaram.
Yeah, of course.
It cannot be denied that it's Vedic.
Oh, we are not denying it's not Vedika.
Right. So
but others will say
Astakshara mantra is given there.
Fine. There is no doubt about that. What I am telling is, if you say that, according to what he said was, according to the Jannacharya Sampradaya, it is Tantrika Astakshara Mahamantra, where Pranava is included and can be given to anybody. According to the Vadakalaya Sampradaya, you have to have it as it is. They consider it as Vaidika.
Can we ask?
So
can we ask why Pila Lokacharya and Manavala Mamani have not mentioned this in the Astakshara Prakaranam of Mumukshapad?
They probably that question did not arise at that time, whether it is Vaidika or Tantrika. See, why I mentioned all the Purusha Sukta, etc., examples is the same mantra can appear in 2 or 3 or 10 places. So he gave this viewpoint to resolve the prevailing confusion whether this is correct or that is correct. From this point of view, this is correct. From that point of view, this is correct. We need not feel that they are contradictory to each other. This is the viewpoint here. See, there are two issues. If you want to say there is a contradiction and say my viewpoint only is correct, then there are so many differences. But if you want to find out why 2 points of view came into existence, then you have to look at these aspects. Now, for example, a person who belongs to Vadakalai Sampradaya may say, no, what you are doing is totally incorrect, whether it is Tantrika or not, I will not worry about those things. We are correct and you are wrong. Or another Tengalai person may say, no, we are correct, you are wrong, I will not accept anything. Then there is no question of discussion, etc. We remain segregated. That is also not wrong. But if a person wants to know why there is a difference and whether that difference can be resolved in an amicable manner, then this is the answer.
All right, fine. So, but that may be acceptable for Tengalais. But are there any Vadagalais who accept this?
No, that's why I said, if you are telling that I am a Vadagalai Sampradaya person and I believe in my Sampradaya only, and I say my Sampradaya only is correct and you are wrong. So if you are already, my father used to very jokingly say, if you are already convinced that you should not be convinced, I will not try to convince you. So what we are trying to do is what my father and my Acharya and we are trying to do is we are trying to do some research into why such a difference of opinion came. And is there a methodology to resolve this? Whether the viewpoints, both the viewpoints can be substantiated from a commoner's point of view or from a neutral point of view. So when you take that into account, this seems to be a very amicable answer or resolution of the dispute. As I said, whether it is Shaiva or Vaishnava. My guru actually, he conducted research on this Shaiva Vaishnava aspect for 25 years because continuously he studied all the works. And he said, he put a question to himself. I will try to explore, I will remain neutral in my mind and explore all the pramanas that are there with Shiva and Vishnu. So if I am convinced that Shiva is supreme, I will believe so in my heart, though I may not be wearing the vibhuti or this bhasma, etc. And I will follow that path only. Whereas if I am convinced from a neutral point of view that Vishnu is supreme, then I will follow that path. But later he told, yes, now I am convinced, after conducting extensive research, I am convinced as of now Vishnu is supreme. As of now means later Vishnu will not become supreme. No, that's not the question. Under the prevailing circumstances, I have been convinced that Vishnu is supreme. Why? So he has given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 answers. Why Vishnu is supreme? So this is at a Devata level. That is where you have the different akaras or different forms. But there is then he also was mentioned, but I don't know how many people will take this into respect. There is also a form where you go beyond all these forms and then you call it the Supreme Brahman or whatever it is. Then these names will not be operable there. So there is a stage where all these different identities merge. And you are left with Supreme Brahman. You may call that as Lord Narayana, something else, that's a different issue. So that is why you have 3 states, Adhya, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika and Adhyatmika. So Adi Daivika is where you have the Devatas or the deities. Adhyatmika is a stage where you go beyond the forms, names and forms, and then that is why the Alvars also say Param Shudara or Param Jyoti or something like that. So when they are seeing the Lord as a supreme, as a divine flame, So will they say it is Vishnu, not Shiva, or not Vishnu? Because we say Vishnu Sarvabhuta, Sarvadeva. He is of the forms of all the deities. So that is why in the Vishwarupadhyaya, he says Aditya Namaham Vishnu, Jyotisham Raviram Shuman, etc. Amandya Aditya Sayam Vishnu. Rudranam Shankarashtas. Among the Rudras, Ekadashi Rudras, I am Shiva. So like that, he gives all the names. So we are really confused about this. And then in the Vishnu Sahasranamadhyaya, Sarva Sharva Shivasthanuhu. Word Ishvara is also there. Shiva is also there. Sthanuhu, which is a very important name of Shiva, that is also there in Vishnu Sahasranama. So there is a stage where you go beyond these names of the deities, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, Indra, etc., etc. That also you should not forget. But when you come to the deities, Vishnu is supreme because of these 1, 2, 3, 4 reasons. So that reasoning is also very, very valid. And see, when you are in the beginning, you accept directly what your elders say. Even the Manusmriti says that you go by what your elders say, what your forefathers say, what your father or grandfather, his father has followed. Don't try to adopt something new. But after a particular stage, when you are able to see that that is backed by very sound logic, then it becomes more meaningful. So when you know my father was practicing it, and when I practice it, I find that it is very, very meaningful that I am doing it. Then it is all the more valuable, and we are very much convinced what we are doing, and it becomes very meaningful. The practice that you are doing is very meaningful. It is very significant at that time. Now, for example, you perform some asana, yogasana. So they will say if you perform some Paschimottanasana, you will have these benefits. You may not know human anatomy or etc., how the muscles shrink. So if you have to reduce your midriff, that is the abdominal fat, you please perform Paschimottanasana, where you have to, without bending your knees, you touch your toes with your hand. So gradually, in the beginning, a person might, like me, may not be able to do it. But if I do it for 3 months, I will definitely be able to do it. Then they say they want 2, 3 this. Suppose you know that what all happens inside when you do the asana, and then with that knowledge you do, it is more meaningful, it is more significant. So that is the reason why we have all these grantha. Why do we need so many works? Mumukshu Padya, Rahasya Tresara, Shri Bhashyam or Gita Bhashyam, etc. If you want to know how the practices that are given to us by our forefathers are very meaningful, they are logical, they are in line with the reasoning capabilities, and we can realize their significance. That is why we have to read all these things. Otherwise, there is also a saying which has been quoted here also, Shastra Jnanam Bahu Klesham Buddhehe Chalana Karanam Upadesha Dharim Buddha Viramet Sarvakaram. Suppose there is an 80-year-old lady, or don't mistake me for saying like that. So, will she be interested in all the logic? Why this, why that? What is the Jivatma? What is his definition? What is Paramatma? What is his definition? Will he do like that? She is not interested in the logical approach. She is interested in an emotional approach. I believe my God and I worship him. Why all this? I am not worried about. Why should I break my head about these things? So for such persons, it has been mentioned, Shastra Jnanam Bahu Klesham. The knowledge of the Shastra is very difficult to attain. And Buddhehe Chalana Karanam. So your mind will become wavering. Therefore, what should you do? Upadesha. You take Upadesha from your Guru, have the darshan of Lord Hari, and Viramet Sarvakarams. Just give up all the other things. That means just engage in the experience of the Lord. Why do you worry about this logic, that logic? He has said like this, in this Veda it is mentioned like, in this Upanishad it is mentioned, in Shiva Tantra it is mentioned, in Vishnu Tantra it is mentioned like. Why do you worry about all these things? So we call it as Adhikari Vedana. Then will it apply to persons like us also? No, it will not apply, because if you are endowed with an intellect and if you have the power of reasoning, if you have the wherewithal to withstand all the questions, etc., then what happens? You study the Shastras, do a thorough churning of all the issues that are involved, then you will only find out that this is the truth. But the second option is more enjoyable because you have done all those things. See, it's like a football match. So a new person who did not know about football at all, football or soccer as you call it in US, he said, why are these people quarreling for a single ball? Give a ball to everybody. Is there any shortage of balls that they cannot purchase a ball? Then there is no fun in it. So there is a single ball which has to be put in the opposite goal post by these people, and the opposition should be able to try to put that ball into this goal post. Then only there is excitement. Why people are mad about soccer? There are several billion or billions of people watching soccer, English Premier League, that league, World Cup, European Euro, something like in Copa America, and so many things. So here also, if for a person who is not interested in games at all, he will not worry about soccer. But if a person is very much interested, he'll say, what happened, what happened, what happened? So how did he pass this ball? How did he set up the goal? Who set up the goal? How did it happen? Is it from a corner? Is it from a penalty? Something, so many things. So if a person has the wherewithal and if a person wants to know really well why Vishnu is supreme, why we have to perform these things, is it logical? Does this have any, is it endowed with proper logic? Is there a very firm theoretical foundation underlying the practice? Then you have to know all these things. So anyway, I think we have almost come to the end of the period. But I think it has not been a waste of time. So shall we do read the text, or what shall we do?
I think if it's getting late for you, then we can. If anybody maybe has some other questions, because I don't want you to start sutra and not be able to finish it, not be able to go into depth with it. So
any questions from any of the other two participants?
So I wanted to just continue with that Astakshara, the idea of Astakshara being whenever there is a Sri Vaishnava puja or Shatamurai or whatever, sometimes people are chanting from excerpts from this Narayana Tavashira Upanishad as a pramana of Astakshara. But there's
it's chanted even in the Thiruvaradhanam every day. It's chanted in the beginning.
Right.
No, it's not. I'm not telling that it is not pramana or something. It's not authentic or something like that. If you say from a very, very, very logical point of view, other people, so those who do not belong to the Vaishnava tradition, they may question in the authenticity on the basis of it being Atharva Shiksha. But we have no doubt at all about its being a pramana.
Right, but is there any other Shastra pramana for it that is known by Thanacharya Sampradaya?
Is there any pramana
you
for the Astakshara, is it?
Yeah, you quoted that Purusha Sukta is in Rig Veda. Purusha Sukta is also in Taittiriya Aranyaka. Purusha Sukta is in several places. But Astakshara mantra is there in Narayana Tabashira Upanishad. But where else is it mentioned?
It is mentioned in the Pancharatra Samhitas. But I cannot quote offhand. But it is definitely mentioned in the Pancharatra Samhitas. And even in the Vaikhana Samhitas, I am sure about it. Even Kulashekara Alvar says, in his Mukundamala itself, he says, O Namo Narayanaye Namum Mantram Sapranavam Pranava Sahitam Pravartetum.
But in that case, he is a Trivarnika. He's a male Trivarnika, so he,
of course,
so he is able to, he is able to quote the Vaidika,
but he says,
Vaidika version.
He addresses all the persons. Hey Martyaha, he says, oh people, he says, oh human beings. Paramam hitam shrunutavo vakshami sankhepatah.
So
samsara, very, very.
Okay, so as I started out, so is it not therefore a pramana if Vedanta Deshika is going to quote the Alvar's prayers to say that we should only chant Namo Narayana and not Om Namo Narayana?
I have not seen that. Please send that portion to me. I will see the context. And
this is in Rahasya Trayasaram, and the quote he gives is from Alvar, Peri Alvar Tirumoli. There's in I think eighth Dasakam, verse 88 and 89 of Peri Alvar. I'll send you the passages.
Yeah,
but once again, I find it difficult to accept this as a pramana because Peri Alvar was a Brahmin. Peri Alvar was a Brahmin. You say Kulashekara was a Kshatriya. These are all Trivarnikas. Why? Then the only other person I found so far was Tirumalasai Alvar, who is an Ayonaja, and he is specifically talking. He's specifically saying Tiruvastakshara. So there are 8 syllables. So I find it difficult that it's that yes, it's a pramana, okay, but it's not a pramana for what for the answer that Vedanta Deshika wants to give, in my opinion. So I don't see how he can give this pramana.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
But he's given some other pramanas also from some other places. So the whole. In fact, I want to. I've read Rahasya Trayasaram. I want to read it with some Vadagalai teachers and to hear their explanation deeply. Because of course I love Vedanta Deshika and I love his works, but I want to see the contrast, and like you, I want to rationalize and to bring the two opinions together and have a way of friendly coexistence.
That's a very good endeavor. Yeah.
So I think, Mr. Ranga, did you have some question? I don't want to disturb you.
No, Swami, I was fine. Thank you, Adi.
So what do you feel about today's discussion?
Swami, I'm obviously very new to Mumuksha Dada, so I'm just taking it in. It's very nice about the Purusha Suktam when you were talking. I wasn't aware of it.
But could you follow what we were discussing?
I have to apologize. I was late, so done my pranams, but I could follow some of it. Yes, that the swaram should not be spoken out loudly, because I also heard this in other discussions. I wasn't sure because how to pronounce the Astakshara mantram.
In fact, Mani Varadarajan, I had a discussion with Mani Varadarajan here in Hawaii, and he when he visited here recently, and he said that in fact there are some Vadagalaya acharyas who are teaching Astaksharam with swaram, with some different swaram. But because I said in Narayana Tavasira Upanishad, the actual Astakshara doesn't have so many different swarams. It's all Udatta. Yeah, it's all Udatta swaram. So, but he said they teach it with some different swaram, especially maybe in a Hovalambatam. I'm not sure. So if they teach it with swaram, with some different swaram, it must come. That must also come from some place. They must be quoting it from some place.
I'll also find out about it.
Right, and anyway, the question came because I have a friend who recently did Paranyasam from a Hobalamatam like that, but he's a foreigner. So I asked Dr. Tiran Ryan in Sri Lanka, are there a lot of foreigners, or a lot of non-Trivarnikas who are part of a Hobalamatam or who are part of Munitraya Sampradaya, as they call it, the Wadagalai Mats. And he said Parakala Mat, they may have a lot of non-Trivarnikas in that.
Sorry, Parakala Mat?
Parakala Mat. He said he thought that Parakala Mat has a lot of Shishas who are not non-Brahmins. But as far as Pondarika Puram Andavan and Hobalam Mat and Periya Andavan, Sri Mushnam Andavan, he said he doesn't think that there are many non-Brahmins in those mats who are following those mats.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. So and we see.
Because
I
have seen several non-Brahmins being given Samashanam in a Hobalmat.
Yeah.
Because the original mandate of a Hobalmat is to initiate, give Sri Vaishnava Diksha to all the people, not only Brahmins. Anyway, these are all, he might have, I don't know why he has told that, but anyway, because it is said that Lord Narasimha ordained Adivan Shidapapa Swami to take the icon of the Utsava Murti and roam all over the place.
Right.
And that is why that Utsava Murti in the icon itself, he is wearing a paduka, which is not found in any other place. So when do you wear padukas or the sandals? Only when you move around. So when Adivan Shidapapa Swami was given the icon of Narasimha, generally, and another very important aspect is the Utsava Murti in any place will be in the form of this, like we have in all the four Divya Rations. The Abhayasta and Shankha Chakra and Gada. So they call it as Prahladana Varada. He will not be in the form of having the face of a lion and also having Lakshmi, etc. The Utsava Murti will generally be not like that. Even in Ahobala Kshetram, the other Utsava Murti is like regular, like in Srirangam, Nelkote and other places. But in this case, it is the Utsava Murti also is in the form of Lakshmi Narasimha, the lion face, and also having padukas. So the tradition of Ahobala, according to my knowledge, is that Adivan Shidapapa Swami was ordered by Lord Narasimha himself to take Narasimha all over the place and initiate all the people who want to seek refuge into Sri Vaishnavism. That is why, once again, these are all the hundreds of nuances are there. There is no homam performed in Ahobilmat.
No homam.
Homa is not performed. They call it as Dupaka Samashan. They will bring the fire in a what we call this.
Dupatra.
Dupapatra. And do the Samashana.
A vessel for holding the charcoals for offering the Samrani.
That is why Munitraya does not accept it.
So for Tapta Mudra Dharanam, they're not performing the Homa.
No, they're not performing.
So they're giving Tapta Mudra Dharanam by holding it in the Dumra.
By heating the that Shankha and Chakra in the Dupaka, that is the vessel, without mantras.
Without mantras. Oh.
Yeah, Homa is not there.
Homa is not. Oh yes, but they use the mantras for application.
Grihasthas perform they have to perform so many things.
Yes.
They have to first give Panchakavya, they give here also. They have to give Panchakavya, that is, first they have to do Panchakavya Samyojana has to be done.
Right. Everybody sips Panchagavya.
Panchakavya Samyojana has to be done first.
You have to make the Panchagavya. Yes.
Yeah, you have to first invoke the deities in the different cow products, then mix it with the mantra. Then it has to be administered to the person who is going to have Samasya. Then you have to do Pratisara Bandha, that Kankana has to be tied. For that also mantra is there. Then you have to perform the Homa. Astakshara Homa, Purusha Sukta Homa, Shri Sukta Homa. Then the Sudarshana Narasimha, the Sudarshana Homa and also other Homa. Not very elaborate, but it is mentioned like that there. Then only the Tapa Samskara in that fire, only the Shankha and Chakra have to be heated and then they have to be done. Then only it becomes authentic. But once again, there is another problem. These are all very, very big problems. So that is why Ramanujacharya, he had not authorized any sannyasin to give Vaishnava Diksha.
Because
all the 74 Simhasanadipatis were Grihasthas only.
So because the sannyasi he hasn't got the Agni Karya, he hasn't got the Pramana.
He doesn't have the Agni Adhikara.
Yeah.
But, and he authorized the sannyasins to be associated with temples. All the temple management was with the sannyasis, whether it is Tirupati or Srirangam or any place. You see, every Divya Desham, there is a sannyasi.
Temple
that is for 2-3 reasons. One reason is they have to be impartial. They can run the temple without so-called, nowadays once again, who can prevent the deterioration. And they will not have these pollutions. Because if some relative passes away, or if some person in the family or the in the brother's family, etc. is born. So Jata Shaucha and Vrita Shaucha will not be there. They can, without any compulsions, perform the management of the temples. Later what happened, the sannyasins took to the task of performing Samasyanam. So they did not have Agni Adhikara. So in Parakalmat, what they do, they ask the Grihastha to perform the Homa. And then they will heat the thing and give it to them, then they will do the Samasya. That is also only the secondary option, not the primary option. But anyway, these are all several complications over time, so many things change. But originally, Ramanujacharya did not initiate the sannyasis performing Samasya. So all the Simhasana, 74 Simhasanadipatis were Grihasthas only. Still it is Grihastha Parampara is continuing, but it is on the verge of extinction. We don't know what is going to happen next.
So we can
several Grihasthas gave up the legacy and also gave up the tradition. So the Shishyas of the Grihasthas, they had to go to the sannyasis over a period of time. So sannyasis started performing Samasya. There are also so many complications. That is not very.
Okay. All right. So let's not worry about that too much. So you were also talking about Andrapat and Dravidapat, right? So I was aware of that in my YouTube channel.
And Dravidapat.
Yes. In my YouTube channel, I put up Narayana Suktam with both. I have separate videos, and I just mentioned that. What was interesting to me was that there's one person, Srivatsa Ramaswamy. He's a famous chanter. He was a disciple of maybe T. Krishna Swami or something like that. Anyway, he's a smarta, but he chants the Dravidapat, and so it's not exactly split that all smartas will not chant.
You might not know. See, Swami, this is also another big issue. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, Shankaracharya has commented only on the Dravida part. He has not commented on the Andhra part. According to my guru, who did a lot of research on this, it was Vidyaranya probably who added this Dravida part, Andhra part to this and bifurcated it and so many things.
Yeah, the Andhra part, there's a lot more. There's many Shaiva mantras there. Yeah, isn't it? More, it's a lot.
Shaiva not Shaiva mantras. It is the supremacy of Lord Narayana is diluted. To put it that way.
Right. I mean, we can say by all the Vedas he is to be known. So it's all the Vedas can be chanted for Lord Narayana also, because all the names are primarily
that is mentioned. Yavai Vedakshirani Yavanti Prapatitani Dvijadiki Tavanti Harinamani Kirtani in some shades. Of course, there is a saying, yes. Anyway, so many things. See, over a period of time, so many changes happen. Positive changes also happen, negative changes also happen. So sometimes they become distorted also. So the great thing is, even after 1,000 years of Ramanujacharya's advent, still there is some what is that? Some sattva, some reality that still remains. That means it has stood the test of time to a large extent. We have seen several movements which have withered away within a period of 100 years, 50 years. I need not name them. We know several acharyas who belong to a particular sampradaya. The acharyas themselves, they were called the Diksha Gurus or something like that, and they themselves have left the tradition completely, from what I hear.
Right. Can I ask you just your opinion that the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, and even when I was visiting Melkote, I saw many Swaminarayan people coming to learn Sri Bhashya, and Swaminarayan himself in text 100 of Shikshapatri says that he follows Sri Bhashya and Gita Bhashya of Ramanuja, but now the BAPS people, they have a scholar who has written a commentary on Prasthanatraya, and they're proclaiming that they have their own commentary on Prasthanatraya. So
no, one school of thought has dissociated from the Vishishtadvaita philosophy. See, these distortions are bound to happen. They said, no, there is a Swaminarayan never said like that. So he has told Matam Vishishtadvaitam me and Ramanujacharya Kritam Bhashyam Adhyatmam Mama. These are the two sentences which he has specifically mentioned. And it is mentioned that he came to Srirangam and he meditated in the presence of in the Sannidhi of Ramanujacharya. He also had Tapta Chakrankana from Ramanujacharya. So this is clearly mentioned in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya texts, original text. Now there is another school of thought which wants to dissociate from this. And the earlier sect said he is an incarnation of Lord Krishna. So this sect, this new sect thought, if you say he is an incarnation of Lord Krishna, that means Krishna is superior than Swaminarayan. So they said, Om Namo Avatarine Swaminarayana. They have Om Namaha Swaminarayana, and that they said Avatarine. No, Krishna is not the Avatari. Swaminarayan is original. Krishna is the incarnation of Swaminarayan. See, by just doing this word play, nothing will happen. See, by changing some words, etc., some people may get fooled. But ultimately it is wrong. See, to say something dishonest or something totally contradictory to the words of Swaminarayan just to glorify him, it will not stand the test of time, or it's incorrect. It is you are actually cheating. You are actually misleading people. But for their own gains, people do several things, and this is another way of doing it. So one person wants to establish a separate thing.
So sometimes you see people, they excessively they praise certain acharyas excessively to the point of saying that they are the avatari, or they are God himself, like this. It may be okay in-house within the sampradaya, within the group, but when they try to put this as
recently I saw a book. No, we are totally different from Ramanuja Sampradaya. We have got nothing to do with Shishta Advaita. In the original Shikshapatri, of which we have a copy, it has not been mentioned, so they have removed that statement. See, first you have to be true to your conscience. Once you have killed your conscience, you can do anything. You can do whatever you want. If you are doing that for some material gains, you have to face the consequences. It's as simple. See, nothing you may have, a person may earn lot of fame, money, etc. in this birth. But will this follow after the person leaves the body? And will you not be penalized by whichever God who is presiding over you? Whether it is Vishnu or Shiva or whoever it is. So there is a saying, you cannot cheat. Ultimately, you cannot cheat the God who is within you. So then, if you do all these things, you will face the consequences. Now we are doing it for name of saying, you do it. But you should be at least true to your conscience. If you have killed your conscience, then the Shastras say, if a person at least he has to accept to his own antaratma, his own inner conscience, or his own God who resides within, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Riddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. God, I am doing what I am doing is wrong, please excuse me, but I am doing it for some material gains, please excuse me. He has to say at least that to his inner self. If he doesn't do that also, and if he kills his conscience, then it is said that he will not be born as a human being in his next birth. He will have to start afresh from the level of some animals. Once again, it may take several kalpas for him to once again attain a human birth. If you are afraid, if you believe in the Shastras, you do according to what is mentioned. Whereas on the other hand, you do it only for material gains. Several gurus are there who do it purely for material gains. They have to face the consequences. So it's a very, very, very careful, very tricky thing. That is why in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, so suppose my father used to say, no, you don't believe in me. You believe in Ramanujacharya, and I am only the person who is actually a representative of Ramanujacharya. That way, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya has been very careful. Recently, I was asked to give a small message on why we consider, we say, once here, whether it is the Nacharya Sampradayam or whatever Sampradayam, you say, Adiyen Ramanuja Das. So ultimately, though we respect our Acharya very much, so that is why in the Shloka Guru Parampara, either Arohana Kama Asmat Guru Samarambha, Metishekara Madhyama, Lakshmi Vallabha Paryantam, Vande Guru Parampara, or Lakshmi Nada Samarambha, Nathayamana Madhyama, Asmat Guru. There also, in the middle, you have Ramanujacharya. So what happens? The onus of protecting us is with Ramanujacharya. So as an individual, I don't, if I perform Samashanam or my father used to perform Samashanam, he would not put the onus on himself. He will say, I am a representative of Ramanujacharya. That is why even in Pudladokacharya says, if an Acharya thinks that he is initiating another person, he is not an Acharya. He thinks he is also a representative or an instrument of his Acharya who is doing it. Therefore, he should consider his Shishya as his classmate. Because I am also initiated by my Acharya. The person who is initiated by me also in physical terms is actually the disciple of my Acharya. So both the disciple and the Guru are initiated by my Acharya. So we both become disciples. We both become classmates or satirthas. So consider your Shishya who has been initiated by you as your classmate. That's all. See to which extent they have gone. So that is the beauty of this. So there is even a small iota of opportunity of getting ahankara is done away with. Without any, there is no opportunity at all for you to feel I am the Acharya. No. You are not the Acharya. Ramanujacharya is the Acharya. You are his instrument in his hands. Of course, the lineage in which you have come also deserves lot of respect. So while prostrating to God or while prostrating to others, you say, I am Adiyan Ramanujadas. Because it is said that Ramanujacharya was assured by the Lord that anybody who seeks refuge under the feet of Ramanujacharya will be liberated. So we have that firm belief that Ramanujacharya with the Tiruvadi Sambandha or the association with the divine feet of Ramanujacharya will liberate us. So we have this firm conviction, and based on that firm conviction, we proceed in our life. So it's like that.
Thank you very much, Swami. We very much appreciate these Dharma Shukshmams that you are giving us.
Yes, yes. So yeah. I owe it all to my revered father and my Acharya, who have given some of these aspects to me. Of course, there are several thousands of issues, but they have given it to me in this form, and I have shared it with you. So once again, it is they who deserve the credit for all those things, if there is anything good.
Thank you, Swami.
Srimate Ramanujaya.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Om